Good morning, Jody. Thanks for the purchase. This is the Breville Barista Express BES870 in black truffle. So as you saw in the photos, this is basically a new, never used machine, just opened and returned for whatever reason, so that's why it's discounted. But otherwise it's in perfect condition, of course. You'll notice immediately that there's a silver drip tray instead of the black one. I'm trying to use whatever I can with my machine, from my machine on yours to keep yours dry. So this is actually my own portafilter, my own drip tray, my own bean hopper, and my own water tank from this machine. When I finish this video, I'll try my best to clean everything, dry everything, make it look like new again, because I understand this is a gift. So in this video, I'll be testing everything for you. I did a test last night, works fine, but I'm going to test the video now just to make a coffee and set up the settings correctly. I like to begin the session with a blank shot, so I would get my cup, put it underneath the handle, and run a blank shot, so just some water, basically. That's to warm up the cup and the portafilter, because when you turn it on in the morning, it's not immediately hot. The boiler may be hot when the machine is ready, but the handle could be lukewarm at best, and the cup is cold because it just got out of the drying rack. So I'll put it down here. I'll press the double button. It's gonna give me about 100 mils of hot water. You can do that once or twice, up to you. I would say at least half of the cup. That's the first go. We'll try the single button now. Right, we'll keep that there. Maybe we'll take out the portafilter actually. Okay, so once you take it out, you want to dry it before you grind anything into it. It's nice and hot now. Well, not hot, it's warm. If you want everything to be hot, you can also, before you do this blank shot, keep the machine on for 10 or 20 minutes. That's gonna warm everything passively. So you can actually put your cup up here. It'll get warm passively from the boiler. The portafilter is connected directly onto the metal block that's connected to the boiler. That's gonna get hot in a few minutes. And yeah, after that you can do the blank shot to warm up the cup properly. So we'll dry this. So your machine comes with 4 baskets. This is the one that's installed already. It's the double shot single wall. This is basically the best basket that you can use. It'll taste the best, it'll be easiest to clean, but unfortunately it just means that you have to get the settings right. So that's the sort of disadvantage of this basket. Not a huge disadvantage. I mean, as long as you get the settings roughly correct, you should get a decent coffee. But there's also the double wall baskets. Those ones will be harder to clean, will taste less good, I would say, less flavorful. But they will be much easier to use because you don't have to focus on the grind size. You can just put it on whatever grind size and it'll create pressure in crema. That's a quick rundown about that. Next thing is the grind size. So last night I made a coffee, I think on grind size number 5 or number 2, I can't remember. I think it was number 5, so I'll increase it anyway. Large grind size means quicker flow, think of it that way. Small grind size means slower, smaller flow of coffee, that is. So when you grind very fine, you're compacting the coffee very tightly, you're making it very fine, and there's very little room for the water to go through. So it'll, when you try to make coffee, it'll push a lot of pressure, it'll slow down the flow. If you have a very large grind size, what would happen is, think of it like loose gravel and water just running through. So if you have very large grind size, your flow will be quicker, the shot will be quicker, maybe longer as well, and the pressure will be reduced. So you don't want it to be too high or too low. That's also going to affect the taste, but we won't get into that. What you want to do is grind exactly 18 grams. This is the 18 gram basket, so it takes exactly 18 grams of coffee, more or less, but that's what I usually aim for, 18 grams. Let's say, we'll try grind size number 8. Okay, grind size number 8, and we'll see how that goes. The next thing is we want to get 36 grams of espresso out of that shot. So this 18 grams here, 36 grams into the cup. That's a doubling, that's a 2-to-1 ratio. And we want that to happen in about 25 seconds. So if we try to make coffee and the grind size is very fine, like I said, and it's struggling to push out the coffee, that 36 gram shot will take a minute maybe, or 45 seconds, which is a bit too long. We want it to be around 20 to 30 seconds. If, on the other hand, the grind size is very large, water is just gushing out of the portafilter spouts, we'll get the entire 36 gram dose in maybe 10 or 15 seconds, which is obviously too quick. So the golden ratio, I guess, or the golden middle ground is 25 seconds, I would say. Even 30 seconds is pretty good, actually. Right. I've got a scale. You don't have to have a scale, but I've got a scale here to measure the ins and outs. It helps me with consistency and demonstration. If you don't have one, I would recommend it. Or if you don't have one, you can still make a good coffee. You don't have to be scientific about it. So, I've tiered my scale. I'm going to start grinding at grind size number 8. The only thing I'll do is I'll purge some of the coffee, because last night I was using grind size number 5 and it was a bit too, I think it was grind size number 5, I can't remember if it was 5 or 2. Anyway, let's try number 7. So I want to purge and get rid of the old grind size. There's a couple of grams in there at the moment. Even when you finish grinding, it retains a couple of grams of ground coffee in the chute. So I'll just purge a little bit. I'm going to have a look at the grind size by hand as well, just to see if it's too fine or too close. That looks alright. I'm going to keep it at grind size number 7. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to empty the basket. You don't have to do this purging every day. I'm just doing it because this is the process of dialing in. So when you try to arrive to the correct grind size, you have to go through a bit of trial and error and try different grind sizes, especially if you're changing beans or if you are a beginner. It'll take you a few goes. But hopefully this setup, I'll be putting it roughly in the ballpark for you, so that you don't have to struggle too much. Hopefully once you get it, if you use similar beans as me, you'll be getting similar results and you don't have to mess too much with the grind size and the buttons. Ideally this will only take one go and we'll be able to get a coffee from the first go. It has happened previously, where the first instance is perfect timing. That's not always the case, so it's possible that we do this a couple times in this video, so this video might be long. I'm gonna close the beans. Try your best to use good, high quality beans. If you're using like supermarket beans, I would say most supermarket beans aren't great. They could be months by the time they hit the shelves and by the time you buy them. So they're not very fresh, they don't give a lot of crema, and they will flow very quickly. You know the beans are old when the flow is very quick and the pressure gauge is barely moving. Water just goes through the beans very quickly, even if they're finely ground. That's just because the beans will lose freshness over time. And anyway, that's enough talking about beans. Let's grind. With grinding, you have two options. You can go double and grind the whole thing in one go, or the other thing, which is my preference, to do single twice. I like the single twice because it reduces the mess, and I think it's a bit more consistent if you measure it halfway. So I'm going to zero my scale again. Grind size number 7. The amount, I'll keep it on 1 o'clock and see what happens. Yeah, just stay on 1 o'clock and we'll grind a single dose. That looks good. 8.3, so increase it just a touch to about 2 o'clock. We want to have 9 grams per dose. Obviously 9 times 2 is 18. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to top it up to 9 grams. When you hold the button, it grinds manually, so it only grinds for as long as you hold. That's 9.1, perfect. Once you get the first dose, this is the important part. Lightly press it with the tamper in place. You don't have to remove the tamper in the first dose. Lightly press. This is what's going to compact the coffee, make space for the next dose, and reduce the mess. Otherwise, what usually happens if you grind the full dose in one go is you'll get a little mountain of coffee, and it may spill down the sides onto the counter, onto the machine. As you take it out, it might spill onto the ground. So you don't want that to happen. So that's why I do the tamping halfway. Great. Second dose ground. Mm, 18 and a half. Okay. So it looks like maybe this 1 o'clock is better. It's better to go a bit under dose rather than going a bit over. So I'll keep it on the 1 o'clock position and see how you go. It's not always perfect, so you may get 9.2 or 8.6. It's impossible to always get at 9 unless you single dose. But roughly, it should be okay to keep it at the same setting. You know, as long as it's consistent and as long as it's not too high or too low, it should be fine. Or you can single dose, like I said, put exactly 18 grams into the beans, and yeah, put exactly 18 grams into the bean hopper, and only grind that. I do that with my personal machine. It's too much work for most people, but it does prolong the freshness of the beans. So it's 9.2, take a bit off. 18 grams, that's exactly 18 grams. What you can also do is grind more than you need and use the razor trimmer tool included in your machine to trim the extra coffee. It's a bit wasteful, it disrupts the coffee surface, so I don't usually use it. I think I have one here. Yeah. So yeah, some people use it where you put more than you need, and then you grind the extra. Sorry, you trim the extra coffee into the bin. But in my opinion, it's better to just do it properly in the first time, rather than sort of fixing a mistake after you do it. Now, it's taken a while, but once you get into the zone, this whole process should only take like 30 seconds, maybe a minute. But you know, I'm trying to demonstrate how it works, so it does take a bit longer than usual. Put it on the counter and press. Make sure you press nice and flat, even across all sides. As I was talking, I forgot to say, I was distributing the coffee, making it flat before I press, and that's so, basically if the coffee is flat and you press it, it'll distribute the pressure. If it's sort of centered around the top and it's like a little mountain, when you press it straight away, most of the time what happens is the pressure will be increased in the middle and the sides will be loose. So I'm just trying to avoid that to make the shot the best I can. And distribute the coffee before I tamp it down. If you don't have a scale and you want to know the correct amount of coffee, you can use this little trick. Press the coffee and then look at the depth of the tamper. This silver part should disappear. So this is like a little guide that Breville includes in all their tampers. This is like I think 0.8 or 1 centimeter from the top, and that usually is in line with 18 grams. So we have exactly 18 grams in here. We know that for a fact because we measured with our scale. And so the silver part is disappearing. That's exactly what the depth is. If it's too high, if it's all the way up here, for example, and you can't push it any further, that's too much coffee. And if it sinks too deep into the basket, like halfway or something, that's obviously too little. So I want it to be just like that. Make sure it's nice and smooth, nice and even. Clean the edges. And you're done. You can finally make coffee. The last piece of the puzzle is the buttons. So the buttons will be programmed from factory to give you too long of a shot, in my opinion. So the single button, too long for a single shot. The double button is too long for a double shot. In water terms, this is, I think, 60 mils and 100 mils. I prefer to reset them with coffee. So I'm going to make a coffee now. I'm going to reset them using the coffee to give me the correct amount of coffee, if that makes sense. I'm going to calibrate the buttons for you. So hopefully once you get the machine, just use the double button and it will give you good coffees. Assuming that my grind size is not too fine or too coarse. If it is, we'll just have to do the programming and the whole process again. You can just fast forward that. Right, hot water tap, you have that as well. This gives you clean hot water from the boiler, bypassing any coffee grounds that could be in the group head. You can use this feature to make a long black coffee, tea bags, etc. I'm going to add some sugar to my coffee, so this hot water, a bit of hot water helps it dissolve. Great. I'm going to reset my scale again. And I'm going to start making coffee. So, to program a button, you only do this when you program. You don't do this every time, of course. You press the program, and then the button you want to program, the machine will start making coffee. Once it's at the level you're happy with, press it again. It'll save and remember for the next time. I will also time it on my scale. So we should be getting good measurement. So program, then the button. The pressure gauge is limited to about 12 o'clock, but if it's too low, if it's under 10 o'clock, so it's about 11 o'clock now, that's very good. So my scale just ran out of battery. That's not great. Okay. Well, that sucks. I think that's about 20 to 25 seconds. I'll rewatch the video to confirm. But we can measure the output, nonetheless. So not recommended to do this, but I'm going to remeasure by changing into another cup. So that was 50 grams of coffee, wow. That was a bit too long. So what I think is happening here is my grind size is a bit too large, so we'll have to try number 6 or number 5 again. Looks like I was using number 2 last night, not number 5. So I might not make another coffee. I think that's a bit wasteful to chuck this one down the drain. It's going to make the video much longer. And unless you're using exactly the same beans, it's a bit arbitrary to chase the rabbit hole and try to get the perfect settings, because you'll be using different beans most likely. So what I'm going to do, hopefully this video has given you some education about what's a grind size, what's a dose, what's a shot, things like that. And I'll reduce the grind size by 1 or 2 numbers, so that once you get the machine, you should be getting slightly slower shots, slightly higher pressure, and a slower extraction. So in terms of water, your machine will give you, check that out, and the bin. Before measuring the water output, I'll quickly show you what I do after I rinse, after I pull a shot. Obviously get rid of the coffee into a bin or something, and then run a blank shot. This is like you're doing 2 birds 1 stone sort of thing. You're cleaning the shower screen, you're cleaning the portafilter, in one motion, which is great. You don't have to go all the way to the sink. And in terms of storage, you can either keep it like this, just to drain, or you can lightly, very lightly lock it in. You don't want to lock it too hard, because otherwise it'll put too much pressure on the rubber seal up in the machine, which is unnecessary, and it might reduce its lifespan. So I'll put that away. In terms of output, your machine using the double shot, have a look. If it's around 80 mils, then that's typical. So it should be okay. I'll let you do the rest. Now you know how to calibrate the button. You know how to grind and tamp and know what the right dose is. If you have the scale, you do 18 grams. If you don't have a scale, if you have a scale, do the 18. If you don't have a scale, look at the tamper depth. I can reduce the dose to 80, so we'll do that now actually. So that you don't get too much coffee in your coffee, too much coffee in your cup. Perfect, that's 79 grams. We'll try that again one more time just for consistency's sake. This should give you about 40 grams of coffee, which is good. Yep, quite similar. I think it's just running out of water, so I'm going to fill the water tank. Great. Next. Well, you should be doing the coffee and the milk very close together, not spend hours like me doing other stuff. So I'll turn on the steamer. It'll take about 10 or 15 seconds to start steaming. In the meantime, I'm going to fill my milk jug about halfway with cold full cream milk. There we go. That's about full pressure. It'll get stronger over time, but 20 seconds in, that's about full pressure. Turn it off. Turn it back on. The technique will need some practice. So basically, keep the jug at an angle, keep the wand close to the edge of the jug, and keep the tip of the wand close to the surface of the milk. And this keeps the milk spinning. If you stay near the surface for too long, you will hear this hissing sound. That hissing sound indicates that you're injecting air into the milk, you're aerating it, giving it that fluff. I tend to only do that for about 10 seconds or so. Doing it for too long will give you too much froth, too little, too watery. So you want it to be 10 seconds or so. But you'll get it better with practice. So now the machine is cooling down. It's running some water through the boiler. There we go. Give it a quick purge. It's pretty strong pressure. And yeah, it'll cool itself down again. Or you can just do this, because you know it's already cold. A quick trick I like to do is use some hot water to soften the milk and wipe it off straight away. So the sooner you wipe it, the easier it is. If you wait a while, it'll harden, it'll sort of bake onto the metal. Obviously the metal gets really hot as you steam, 130 degrees. So you want to remove it ASAP. Otherwise it'll permanently, well not permanently stain, but it'll just be really hard to remove the next morning. Right. Mix up the coffee, mix up the crema before you pour the milk. It's been a while since we finished this shot, so the crema has halved since we finished. With the milk, knock the jug on the counter to break any big air bubbles. It's quite hot now, so I stopped the steamer when the temperature's too hot for the touch. That's how you know it's ready to be turned off. Forgot to say that. Anyway, knock it down to break any air bubbles, and then swirl it around to mix it up. And then if you do this 2 or 3 times, you'll notice the surface becomes smoother. Now it's very smooth, almost like wet paint, they say, which is pretty accurate. And then pour. I'm not a barista, so I don't usually get really good milk patterns or latte art, but you certainly can with this machine if you have some practice and free time, or if you're an ex-barista, this will be very easy for you to do. You just have to do everything right, which many people know how to do. But yeah, that's the latte that I made. Not the best art. Well, it's barely art, but yeah, I think it looks delicious. I'm looking forward to having it. Hope you enjoy the machine, whoever's receiving this lovely gift. Good on you for choosing such a great idea for a gift. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate in messaging me. I'll clean up the machine, dry it and pack it, hopefully send it later this morning. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoy, and have a good weekend.